Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the School District of Springfield Township Board of School Directors regular board meeting, September 19th, 2017. Prior to this evening's meeting at 6:15, we held an executive session to discuss the Erdenheim construction litigation. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reading of the mission statement. The mission of the School District of Springfield Township is to educate and develop all students as learners and citizens who are high-achieving, resilient, and responsible in a changing global community. Roll call. Mr. King?
Mr. Chapman. Here. Ms. Casales. Here. Mr. Lapidus. Here. Ms. Nelson. Mr. Rayer. Ms. Sarsfield. Here. Dr. Taratuski. Here. Mr. Taylor. Here. Ms. Lipinski.
Here. Number 6, announcements. The board, at its discretion, may videotape all or any portion of public board meetings subject to the limitations set forth in Policy 006.2, broadcasting of meetings. Board meetings will be broadcast on Friday afternoon following the board meeting. Are there any public comments on agenda items? Approval of minutes. August 1st, 2017, interim meeting, board minutes A. August 15, 2017, regular meeting, board minutes B. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman. Aye. Ms. Casales. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield. Aye. Dr. Taratuski. Aye. Mr. Taylor. Aye. Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Approval of treasurer's report, treasurer's report B. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman. Aye. Ms. Casales.
Aye.
Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Dr. Taratuski.
Aye.
Mr. Taylor. Aye. Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Reports and information, recognitions and awards. Teacher recognition, Ryan Berger.
Okay, so before we introduce Ryan, I just wanted to remind everyone on the board that one of the motions that is on the agenda for approval this evening is the acceptance of a $5,000 check from Subaru Corporation in recognition of Ryan Berger and his being selected as Best Teacher and receiving an award co-sponsored by Subaru and Philadelphia Magazine. So I'd like to call Ryan up at this time to give a little bit of a brief explanation as to what this award was all about. I will tell you that he was predominantly featured in Philadelphia Magazine, and we took our shot at embarrassing him on opening day by making sure that our entire staff got to see a shot of Ryan from that Philadelphia Magazine celebration that was held at the beginning of the summer. So Ryan, you want to talk a little bit about how all this came to fruition and the many friends you have who voted for you?
Sure. Came to light, one of the parents I had last year saw the magazine that they were having an award. She sent out a chain email to the parents in my classroom, and about 17 out of the 23 parents wrote letters to the magazine just, on my behalf. I became a finalist. There was 5 finalists. At that time, it was open for 2 weeks for voting. It went out on social media. I know it was in the schools. One of my kids told me before I even knew that I was going to be in it that I was going to be famous, so I thought that was funny. And once it got out to the public for the voting, I think it was up to Springfield at that time, and what a great township we live in and work in, that everybody rallied behind it. And I had almost half the votes, which I think shows you the amazing support that I had here from the township.
We brought Ryan to the Rotary Club of Springfield Township as well, so that we could recognize Ryan there, because it really is quite an accomplishment to have that many people pull together in order to get the number of votes required for, beyond a shadow of a doubt, identifying you as the best teacher, and certainly we're all in agreement with that, Ryan. So we wanted to congratulate you in this public setting as well. I see you have some members of your family here, if you'd like to let everyone know who's here on your behalf.
Yes, I have my wife Bethany back there, and my father Don is here as well.
So congratulations, Don and Bethany, as well, and to your mom and your entire family, Ryan, and we're very proud of you, and thanks for coming this evening so that we could all recognize you again.
Thank you.
And Ryan, I'm sure you have some lesson planning to do, so if you'd like to leave, you may do so.
Sleep too.
That's what best teachers do.
Boys. Okay, moving on to the district PTA report, Colleen Shaler.
Hi. Hi, my name's Colleen Schaller. I'm one of the co-presidents of the EEHSP for the elementary schools. I've been told I'm supposed to give a report, so I hope that I do a good job. The secondary PTA has also given me their report. We're going to alternate the meeting, so I'm going to give you that first. She said that the secondary PTA is in the middle of their membership drive. They're hoping for 100% membership this year from both the school community and from teachers. Once the membership drive is over, it will be determined if we have enough families participating to print our school directory. The first meeting for the secondary PTA is October 2nd at the middle school at 7 p.m. It'll be a general meeting, no guest speakers. And if you want to volunteer for any committees, this is a good meeting to attend for anyone who can. They are going to have their first ever Dine and Donate at Halligan's Pub on October 11th, and please consider dining out that night. It is for a good cause. So we just had our first meeting, our first general meeting, which we had a pretty good turnout. The board was elected. I was, given the official go-ahead. We have a couple of upcoming events. We have the Wizards are coming to the high school on October 7th. That was a really great event last year, and it sold out. So, I encourage everyone to get their tickets early because we do anticipate that it will sell out. It was a really fun event last year. Our book fair is going to be at Erdenheim on the 25th through the 29th of September. Again, that's a very good event. It's a big fundraiser for us, and it raises a lot of money for the libraries and other things. So one of the issues, just in case you've heard anything, we've had an issue with our vendor we provide school kits, or we provide a service where people can buy their school supplies through a vendor, in which they are provided a box that has all of the school supplies that each teacher deems necessary. We had an issue. This is, I think, the 5th year they've done it, and they never had a problem before that, and there was a huge problem this year, and apparently it was a nationwide problem, so it was a big deal. Staples had a new vendor. We think as of today everything has been resolved. Our person who is our chair is looking into making sure that that doesn't happen, and if not, we're going to potentially get a new vendor for next year. So we're looking into that. I just wanted to say one of my goals as the president this year is to really try to increase, in addition to just fundraising, to try and increase sort of the community events and just the interactions between the home and school, because we are the Home and School Association, and just sort of try to have more fun and promote some community, togetherness in order to, I think, foster the community, the students, and, all of the families, and not just the kids and, here's some money to do something. I mean, that's great too, but that's one of my goals for the year. So Our next meeting is November 14th in the Enfield Library, and that's at 6:30. And I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have the Student Council Report, Tommy Bornhold and Jason Nagab, co-presidents.
Hi, how are you guys? Good, thank you. I'm Jason. I'm one of the co-presidents of Student Council this year.
And I'm Tommy, also co-president.
So next Friday on September 29th, the high school will host its annual activities fair. This year's fair will occur in the cafeteria during all lunches. Students will have the opportunity to learn about the school's extracurricular clubs and activities as they meet with the members of the organizations. During the same week, Student Council will also be hosting a fundraiser at Grubburger in Willow Grove on Saturday from 4 to 9 on September 30th.
Student Council has also taken the initiative to address the tragic hurricane that has impacted the lives of thousands of Americans. That's Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma. Student Council will be taking part in a fundraiser to raise supplies for Hurricane Irma's recovery fund. The student body is very excited for the 2017-2018 school year. High school has a new energy, and our first weeks with Dr. Rittenhouse, Mr. Ortiz, and Mr. Reagan show us this is going to be an amazing year. And this isn't written down, but we just wanted to say that we have big things coming. So we'll let you know.
Big things.
Thank
Big
you
things
both.
coming. Yeah, stay tuned.
I just have a quick question for both of you. We had one of the high school students, a senior, come to Rotary Club's meeting today and announce about the collection efforts for the hurricanes and for the victims. Are you also accepting, I know she read a list of the type of items that are being requested. I don't know if you have that with you. But one of the questions that one of the members raised is, would you be willing to accept the hotel-sized shampoos, conditioners, soaps, and so forth, which many people get if they have to travel for business and so forth?
I believe we would be accepting things like that, just not money. Pretty much anything but money.
Okay. Do you happen to have a list, or do you recall? I just thought it would be helpful if we could announce it here. I know diapers and formula are on the
Canned
list.
foods, right? Diapers, formula, canned foods,
Canned foods.
new clothing, nothing used.
New clothing, nothing used. Right.
That's about all I can think of. I'm sorry. We don't have a list on it.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. I know there will be further e-blasts and so forth coming out about that, but thank
Yeah.
you guys for bringing that to everybody's
Thank you.
attention.
Thank you.
Okay, so beginning this Thursday and every Tuesday and Thursday until October 7th, donations can be dropped off at the high school in the morning from 7 to 8 a.m. and in the afternoon from 3 to 5 p.m., and there will be someone at the main entrance to assist. The requested items are blankets, air mattresses, batteries, flashlights, bottled water, Gatorade, canned foods, baby diapers, wipes and formula, clothing, socks and underwear, personal hygiene items such as toothbrushes, toothpaste, shampoo, conditioner, soap, deodorant, toilet paper, razors, and other items. They cannot accept any glass products, perishable foods, or old or used clothing. So that's great. Thank you, Mrs. Lipinski.
Next is the reports of committees. Property Committee report, James Taylor.
Good evening. We had our Property Committee meeting on Friday, September the 15th at 8:15 in the administration conference room. Some of the items we discussed are actually on tonight's agenda, so you'll hear them twice. The first thing we talked about was the Act 34 hearing, which is going to be scheduled for October the 19th. 2017. And tonight, I believe we have a presentation also relating to that. We also talked about the Plan-Con forms D and E. Part D is related to project accounting based on estimates, and Part E is for design and development. There'll be a board motion in November, December for both parts, and these will be submitted after tonight's meeting. And there's a 20-day comment period after that's done. We also discussed a high school stadium change order, which is also on the agenda tonight. And we discussed the summer project updates. There's one item which was the high school auditorium roof replacement. There's a change order that's being created for reductions to the original scope of work for that. And the last item we discussed was the next $10 million bond issue for the high school and K-2 projects. The funds for that were budgeted for 17-18, and there's going to be a motion that's needed to authorize the district to proceed with the bond council, and then an additional motion will be needed at the October 3rd board meeting to set parameters for issuance prior to the October 4th sale. And there were no public comments or any other executive session.
Next is the administrative report. Dr. Nancy Hacker, presentation, Schrader Architects, Acts 34 hearing process.
We have two very important meetings that are coming up. The first meeting is going to be held on Thursday evening, September 28th, right here in the Freeze lobby at 6:30 p.m. And that meeting will be to hold a community forum to explain where we are currently in terms of our K-2 construction project down at the Antonelli site. So we're going to have some design renderings that have been completed by Schrader Group Architects, or architects of record for the project, and we're going to be able to answer any questions that anyone has at that time about what we are calling at this point the K-2 Early Learning Center. The second important meeting, as Mr. Taylor just mentioned, and which you're going to hear about, is an Act 34 hearing. Mr. Schrader is here this evening to talk to you about the process that we have to go through before we hold that hearing, and then what the hearing is all about. So Dave, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Good, thank you. We typically enjoy presenting the building design more than what we're presenting now. This has been compared to watching paint dry, so just deal with the presentation. Danielle Hoffer is here with me, and she's as capable of going through all of this as I am. So ultimately, what you are trying to do at this point, what I'm trying to express to you tonight is what the Act 34 hearing is, and the majority of the time I'm going to spend going through the derivation of the numbers that are in the Act 34, because the balance of the Act 34 presentation really is why you're doing it, what the needs are behind it, and then ultimately what you're doing and how you're financing it. So what I want to try to demonstrate to you, because the things that you're to approve tonight are the advertisement and the resolution, and those two documents have a series of numbers in them, and I want to try to explain where that comes from so you get a sense of what's going on. One thing I should note for the public is that each of the board members has an Act 34 hearing booklet in front of them. This, along with, if you approve the advertisement, will be available to the public tomorrow at the school district. So the booklet will be available in the office of the superintendent. The advertisement, I believe, is going in the paper tomorrow, if I remember correctly, for this, because as noted, the advertisement has to be in 20 days or more before the Act 34 hearing, and if you do the math backwards from October 19th, you are more than 20 days beyond that, so you're in a good position to advertise. So what is the Act 34 hearing? There are going to be a number of documents with small print here. These are the documents directly from the booklet that's in the hands of the board members. Essentially what it's saying is that as part of the overall Plan-Con process, which is the reimbursement process available through the state, you are required to hold what's called an Act 34 hearing, and it's built around some legislation in 1973 that applies only to the new construction portions of projects. So in your case, you have new construction and you have site work. So the only thing that this applies to in the case of the Early Learning Center is the new construction and not the site work portion of the work. So it's a hearing that you have to hold where you demonstrate the costs that go into the project to make sure that you're not exceeding a threshold that in 1973 was established as a reasonable threshold to build a building under. So that's essentially what this document is. You'll see that we are advertising 20 days ahead of time as required by legislation. You'll also see that there's a public comment period 30 days after the hearing, and that date runs up until November 20th, which is at the bottom of the document that's in front of you. So Plan Con D is essentially called the Design Development Estimate document. And so by this time, you've got all of the requirements of the project established through specifications and drawings. They're not in their complete construction document form, but they're enough that you know what this building and project are going to cost. I believe that you've been presented an estimate by the construction managers, and Henry's with us from Dewey Engineering. They have provided you with a value that is now in this document, and I believe that that value is the same estimate as been presented since the beginning of the project. So in the document that the board members have, there are a number of small pages again, and I'm only demonstrating the numbers that are of importance to this overall Act 34 maximum building construction cost, and then there's a maximum project cost. So the first thing that happens is all of the numbers that Henry's firm has provided as estimates of this project go into this series of spreadsheets developed by the state, and ultimately establishes something called a total structure cost. And I apologize for the font running below. Our two machines are doing things a little bit differently with the font. But ultimately, that's an establishment of the total construction cost plus building, site, fees, and furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So that equates to a structure cost of $34.997 million. I think you probably remember that the construction cost for the project is more in the range of $32-ish million. This includes all of the fees plus the fixtures, furnishing, and equipment. So all the computers, all the technologies, and everything that goes into it. That's the first number that I ask you to look at. The second, there's a page of following called the D03 page, and on that page, it then adds up all of the building costs, all of the site costs, all of what we call soft costs, which are the fees, the permits, anything, the contingencies, anything else that goes along with a project, and it also adds in all of the financing costs. So once you add all of those together, you run into a total project cost of $39,172,137. Those two numbers are very important. The Act 34 cost, you'll see in a second, but the one number that you'll see in the advertisement and the resolution is $39,172,137. So the estimates that you've been provided show a number of that value. We have to find a way to plug all the numbers that Dewey Engineering gave us back into the state forms so that they eventually fall out with that number which was presented to you. A series of other documents go into this. You'll see some more pages that are labeled D. Eventually, you get to a page that starts to create the Act 34 costs. And so you understand that you saw a total project cost in that first page that I shared with you of $37+ million. Now you take these site costs and you start to subtract those. So the site costs for this project are in the range of $6.8 million, and then there are fees associated and costs associated with that of approximately $328,000. So you'll start to see that the math is you take that total structure cost and subtract the site costs, and eventually you get to this magic Act 34 cost. So I'll go to a couple more pages. One thing that falls in between all of this is a series of pages that define your reimbursables, the potential reimbursables through the state. This is usually a little shocking. We've done the math for you here. I'm sure Ken will check it and probably clarify it a little bit, but the math works out for this district for a project of this type that you will receive approximately 1.73% reimbursement on a project like this from the state. So I just share that with you because what your financial advisors have done is they have gone through and calculated the value of each bond issue and the percentage of each bond issue that you will be reimbursed, and it turns into that magic $692,000, or approximately 1.73% of the total bond issuance. That's if you are reimbursed. As we all know, there's still challenges within the legislature as to whether those funds will be released or not. Lastly, you do get to this Act 34 maximum building construction cost, which is that advertised value. And I said 37 million, I meant 34,997. You take that 34,997,000, subtract those two site costs that I showed you, and you get to this Act 34 maximum building construction cost of 27,815,584. That will never correlate to anything that you see on bid day. Okay? These are numbers run through the system to prove that you are doing things within the range of fiscal responsibility. That's essentially what this is. Once you've established the fact that you're doing that responsibly, then the state says, okay, it's okay to reimburse you your 1.73%. So that's what all of this documentation is about. So there's one more number at the bottom of this page that reads in the neighborhood of $30 million, and essentially what that's saying is that on bid day and with change orders, if you exceed that $27,815,000 by 8%, then you actually have to go for a referendum. So in other words, you have to gain public acceptance of the monies you'd like to spend on the project. So 27,815,584 is what's advertised as the Act 34 maximum building cost, and then I demonstrated to you earlier what the maximum project cost is, which was, I believe, the 37 million. Okay, one more check that the state does. It wants to make sure there was something called the Taj Mahal Act, making sure that you did not spend more per FTE of students than anybody else would doing a reasonably similar project in the state. So we go through and we calculate a series of numbers to try to demonstrate that the building has as much educational space in it as we can share. And that gets reviewed by the state with us, and ultimately these are the pages that demonstrate that. This says that the calculated Act 34 capacity of this project is 1,657 FTEs, or full-time equivalents. One more calculation, don't ever think that the building was built for 1,657 people. This is something that we have to maximize to try to make sure that we maximize your reimbursement. It's just a mathematical number. It does not correlate to the 750 kids that are really designed for this building, okay? So you take that number and you multiply it by a number that was estimated the year prior as a total per pupil cost limit within the state. And in this case, that number comes up to $28,245,000. Since your Act 34 maximum building cost is $27,800,000 and your aggregate building expenditure is $28,245,000, if you are under that $28,245,000, you also do not have to go to referendum. So it's just one more proof in the pudding to make sure that you as a school district do not have to go to referendum for the project. Those are the two numbers that are very important to make sure that the project keeps proceeding. So that's where the numbers come from. I'll just take you briefly through the Act 34 hearing night so you understand what you're in for. Ultimately, this is your presentation as a board of the project that you have designed and are going to finance to the public. So in essence, your consultants, ourselves, the solicitors, and the financial advisors will present your project. There's an agenda. The agenda actually is followed verbatim with all the speaking parts that are in this document. And essentially what's going to happen is, as board president, Gretchen, you'll get to make a little introduction. Somebody from Fox Rothschild will end up constituting the project and demonstrating how the project has to proceed, or how the Act 34 hearing has to proceed. Dr. Hacker will give a quick presentation of project history, need for construction. There's a written portion in here that everybody will get. However, we can follow that loosely and just speak to the major topics in there. At that point, either Danielle or myself will talk about the project options considered, and in this case, because Danielle did the feasibility study, it may be reasonable for her to actually make that part of the presentation. And at that point, I'll be presenting the project description, the site plan, floor plan renderings, and then we'll get into the PlanCon documents that I just went through with you. After that, Public Financial Management will talk about the financial alternatives, and then we open it up for public comment. This is not a presentation for the board to be asking questions or giving answers. The board is a bystander, observing the process going on, And there are generally, at Act 34 hearings, generally you don't actually give responses. They're taken as questions. If you deem it appropriate that we answer, then we can go ahead and answer, but generally this is the intent is for the public to be heard about their thoughts and concerns related to the project. They also then have 30 days following the hearing to submit any of their comments in writing. All of that is compiled, as well as a transcript of the hearing, and all sent to the state as support for the Act 34 hearing that you held. And then the meeting is adjourned. So tonight you're being asked to approve the advertisement that contains the total project costs of $39,172,137 and the Act 34 maximum building construction costs of $27,815,584. And I've finally gotten those numbers correct. Speaking here. Now, the advertisement and the resolution have been reviewed by your solicitor. It is ready to be put in the paper. And the other part that you would need to approve tonight is the actual resolution, which contains all the legal perspective of the Act 34 hearing, again with the same numbers in the resolution. So essentially, that is presentation of the Act 34 hearing and the derivation of the numbers.
The only thing, the only thing I want to say is the resolution is in the booklet.
Yes.
There's not a separate copy of it, I don't believe in.
As is the advertisement. They're both in
And
the
the
booklet.
advertisement, they are in the booklet.
My question was, you said that the public at the October 19th hearing has a chance to ask questions.
Yes.
Do they ever get answered?
Well, that's entirely up to you as to whether we do respond or not. We can respond to every question if that's what you deem appropriate.
But the state does not require that written answers followed up after?
No.
Like if they're not answering?
No. No, so there is a legal stenographer here who will be taking record of everything that's said.
And it will be submitted to the state for review as part of the transcript. The purpose of the Act 34 hearing was a transparency action on the part of the Pennsylvania legislature. It was actually adopted, I think, after the construction, if I'm not mistaken, of the Twin Valley High School in the Twin Valley School District, and it was designed to give the public an opportunity to comment on a building project before the actual bids are let and the district becomes contractually bound.
So is there ever a chance that the state will not allow the project to move forward?
There have been a couple of proceedings in, I would say, contentious projects where if a member of the community disputes the entry into the project and they file a complaint with the department, they may have an appeal, but almost invariably, if the procedural prerequisites were followed, the plan-con process moves forward.
That's accurate.
So I just have a quick question about the advertisement.
Yes.
Because as I'm looking at the photographs of the plans for this building, this is really, really big. And so when I look at this, I think, wait a minute, this is K through 3, this is, or K through 2, excuse me, really big. So I'm like, all right, well, it must be having lots and lots of influx of these students. Section 3.7 says that as forecasted in October 2014, the district K-2 enrollment is expected to increase, and that it's stating that the Montgomery County Planning Commission enrollment projections more accurately reflect it, so that's what they're using to project their planning. But when I look at that projected enrollment on page, or in section 3, page 5, the enrollment actually is decreasing from this calendar year. So I'm just wondering, in terms of if someone comes to the school, the administration building, to look at this advertisement, when you look at the K through 2 grades, the enrollment from this school year actually decreases through 2024-25.
It definitely does from the 2014-15 when it was taken, but if you do look at from the 2016-17 on, it is essentially stabilized and actually increases by a student or two, but there's no major influx.
For K through 2? So this current school year, the only real change that's there is for kindergarten that goes up by 5 students.
Yes.
So every other, first and second grade, the numbers actually go down.
They remain consistent at 182 and 183.
Okay, well, I mean, down from where we're at this year. So
That is true from this year. You're correct.
Can I just make a comment? If you're looking at section 3, page 5, those are the projections from April 2014, and these numbers are not accurate. They're actually higher numbers than that which we've seen in actuality.
Okay, so that's the reason I'm asking.
These are projections based on from when the original demographic study was done.
There will be required testimony at the time of the hearing where you, as well as members of the general community, can ask questions, particularly on the enrollment, as well as every aspect of the report.
So,
But you're not
as an
precluded tonight
example-
from
No, I'm just
asking.
asking because we're being asked to vote on the advertisement. And
So
as
as
it
an
stated here, that's not accurate
So,
information.
well, again, this is based on the demographic study that was done several years ago. So the actual numbers, these are predicted numbers and projections. The actual numbers are different. So for example, this year, 2017, 2018, it says 2454. We actually have around 2,550 students in the district.
Right, but this is a K through 2 building.
Correct, and most of those are coming into the kindergarten, first and second grade. They haven't yet hit the high school.
Okay, all right. So I guess my concern would be that if a parent were looking at this, they would look at this and say, well, no, not really. Your enrollment isn't increasing. So maybe a more accurate or
We're planning to
updated-
show the actual enrollment
Right.
numbers
Okay,
that evening.
okay.
Aren't the actual enrollment numbers, or at least close to actual, on page 3-6?
They said they're not,
It goes only to 15.
It only goes to 2015-16. We have it through the
But those are-
current school year, and we update them monthly, so we have actual numbers.
And at the time of the hearing, I would suggest that the administration be prepared to give the...
That's part of my role, is to have those available, yes.
and actually, Karen, the next page says that the district is not using the PDE numbers, they're using Montgomery County, so they're using the numbers on the higher page.
Just for reference, well, just one comment. I guess I'm not finding in the advertisement where it speaks specifically to enrollment. In the advertisement.
On section 3-7.
No, in the advertisement.
Oh, I'm sorry, you picked this up as a whole booklet and said that this was going to be at the school, at the administration.
That's correct. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make the clarification about the advertisement. So the advertisement is not speaking to that. But you're correct. The Act 34 book says what it says. Just one clarification about the state enrollment. They have not actually updated the state, the PDE enrollment, since 2012. There is not staff there to do that at this time. So we will be going along with whatever enrollment Dr. Hacker has as the most recent as a presentation. So it's a good point.
All right, so this whole thing is not the advertisement?
No, no, just that one page is the advertisement. Yes, thank you. That helps me clarify.
This is going to be something.
No,
Just
good.
for clarity, it's section 2-5, front and back, that is the advertisement.
Yes.
And preceding that is the resolution, which is section 2-2 and 2-3.
Thank you.
And all you're voting on is the resolution, and your vote on this resolution doesn't necessarily presume that you either approve the project or not. What you're simply authorizing are these estimates of the project so it can be advertised and then presented to the public.
Okay, thanks.
Correct. Any other questions on that? Okay. Well, thank you for the comments, and I appreciate you bearing with me on the Plan Con D description. Thank you.
Is everyone ready to move on to new business? Okay, number 1, personnel attachment, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the following personnel as presented in the attachment: administrative personnel, confidential personnel, certificated personnel, support personnel, temporary personnel, extra pay for extra responsibilities, conference workshop attendance. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman? Aye. Mr. Sales? Aye. Mr. Lapidus? Aye. Ms. Sarsfield? Aye. Dr. Terrateschi? Aye. Mr. Taylor? Aye. Ms. Lipinski?
Aye. Number 2, check acceptance, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the acceptance of a check in the amount of $5,000 from Subaru of America, Inc. in recognition of Ryan Berger winning Philadelphia Magazine's Best Teacher Award. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Second. Any questions or comments? I just want to say, go, Mr. Berger. Mr. Hay?
Mr. Chapman? Aye. Ms. Sales? Aye. Mr. Lapidus? Aye. Ms. Sarsfield? Aye. Dr. Terrateschi? Aye. Mr. Taylor? Aye. Ms. Lipinski?
Aye. Number 3, European trip, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the high school social studies and language trip to Paris, France, and Barcelona, Spain, June 20th through the 28th, 2018, as per the attachment J. Is there a motion? Motion. Is there a second? Any questions or comments?
Just quickly, because I didn't have access to the attachment, how is the trip being funded?
Students pay for it themselves. Most of them are doing fundraising.
Thanks.
Mr. Hay?
Mr. Chapman? Aye. Ms. Casalis? Aye. Mr. Lapidus? Aye. Ms. Sarsfield? Aye. Dr. Terrateschi? Aye. Excuse me. Mr. Taylor? Aye. Ms. Lipinski?
Aye. Number 4, confidential settlement and release agreement, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the confidential settlement and release for student 2017-0919-01. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second? Second. Any questions or comments? Mr. King?
Mr. Chapman? Aye. Ms. Casalis? Aye. Mr. Lapidus? Ms. Sarsfield? Aye. Dr. Terrateschi? Aye. Mr. Taylor? Aye. Ms. Lipinski?
Aye. Number 5, confidential settlement and release agreement, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the confidential settlement and release for student 2017-0919-02. Is there a motion? Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Mr. King?
Mr. Chapman? Aye. Ms. Casalis? Aye. Mr. Lapidus? Aye. Ms. Sarsfield? Aye. Dr. Terrateschi? Aye. Mr. Taylor? Aye. Ms. Lipinski?
Aye. Number 6, Lakeside Educational Network, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the agreement between Lakeside Educational Network and Springfield Township School District for the 2017-2018 school year as per the attachment K. Is there a motion? Motion. Second? Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman? Aye. Ms. Casalis? Aye. Mr. Lapidus? Aye. Ms. Sarsfield? Aye. Dr. Terrateschi? Aye. Mr. Taylor? Aye. Ms. Lipinski?
Aye. Number 7, new K2 Act 34 hearing and advertisement, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the resolution authorizing the administration and its consultants to take all necessary steps to conduct and advertise in accordance with Act 34 of 1973 and the PA Public School Code of 1949, a meeting concerning the proposed construction of a new K-2 elementary school. The meeting will be held in the Freeze Lobby at the Springfield Township High School on Thursday, October 19th, 2017, beginning at 7 p.m. Is there a motion? Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman? Aye. Ms. Casalis? Aye. Mr. Lapidus? Aye. Ms. Sarsfield?
Aye.
Dr. Taratuski?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor? Aye. Ms. Lipinski?
Aye. Number 8, general obligation bonds, series of 2017. Recommended motion. The Board of School Directors does hereby authorize the administration to work with PFM Financial Advisors LLC as financial advisor, Foth Rothschild LLP as bond counsel, and the local solicitor in conjunction with the issuance of general obligation bonds, series of 2017, via competitive internet auction to fund various capital projects in the amount of $9,995,000. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman? Aye. Ms. Casalis? Aye. Mr. Lapidus? Aye. Ms. Sarsfield?
Aye.
Dr. Taratuski?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor? Aye. Ms. Lipinski?
Aye. Number 9, high school stadium change order, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the change order to Mid-Atlantic Sports Construction to add the installation of the track material to their contract in the amount of $306,300. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I just want to make sure we understand what this motion is. With regard to the stadium project, it was maybe a week, 2 weeks ago, the original installer of the track notified us that they were likely to be 9 weeks late. Once we heard that, we reached out to Mid-Atlantic Sports Construction. They're the company that's currently doing the site work for the field, as well as the stormwater management system. And we asked them to give us a price, and more importantly, when they could begin. They told us that they could begin on time or within a week. So we asked for them to give us a price, which they did, and they were planning to start next week. Puts us on the same timeline as completion when we began, early October. So in order to get them moving, they have already started, but to confirm that they have the contract, we did this motion. There is going to be forthcoming at a next board meeting, another change order, which is a negative amount to the previous installer, taking them off the job and finalizing that. So we discussed this in the property committee on Friday. They provided us with some direction to follow. Working with Dewey Construction and Mr. Thorne, we're in the process of finalizing that negative change order that will be brought to the board at a later date.
Everyone good? Okay, thank you, Mr. King. Go ahead.
Mr. Chapman? Aye. Ms. Casalis? Aye. Mr. Lapidus? Aye. Ms. Sarsfield?
Aye.
Dr. Taratuski?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor? Aye. Ms. Lipinski?
Aye. Number 10, Antonelli School Early Lease Termination, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the letter of amendment to terminate as of June 30th, 2018, the lease agreement with Antonelli School of Photography, Inc., dated March 27th, 1996, and as previously amended. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman? Aye. Ms. Casalis? Aye. Mr. Lapidus? Aye. Ms. Sarsfield?
Aye.
Dr. Taratuski? Aye. Mr. Taylor? Aye. Ms. Lipinski?
Aye. Are there any public comments on non-agenda items? Yes?
Class courses offered.
You can come on up to the table. And if you would please just state your name and address for the record?
My address?
Well, it's just to where you are in the township, you don't have to.
I'm in Patton, on Patton Road. My name is Gina Wiggins. I have a question in regards to the courses being offered for middle school. Sixth graders are offered, drama and photography. I'm trying to understand the basis and the purpose. And I'm a little confused that when we went to the back to school night, I'm being told there's only 6 cameras for the amount of students. So I have a question, are we prepared? And how is this going to prepare a child for their future? Like, how much thought process went into this? Is this something that you always have had? Drama and photography and journalism class for 6th graders? And at the same time, social science and science is not offered throughout the year. It's only offered in blocks, which it seems as though those should be, especially in today's environment, especially science, should be something they have every day. It shouldn't be something based on semesters.
So let me start with your first question, and I think it does lead into the second question. What you are describing are, I believe, the offerings in the Spartan block. The whole idea behind those offerings is to give students experiences in a variety of different subjects, content areas, and activities in order for students in the middle school to be able to explore what their future interests might be. So the idea is to give them a variety of choices which they can change. They can go from one choice after a certain period of time to another choice to another choice. They also offer gaming, Rubik's Cube solving, chess, and so forth, all during that beginning Spartan block in the day. It's an opportunity for students to socialize and come together, interact with their peers in a different way than their academic courses. So I believe the specific areas that you mentioned are referenced courses in the Spartan block.
From my understanding, they're not. From my understanding, when I got my son's schedule, it's not part of the Spartan block. He gets graded on drama, on.
They are electives. I know
Yes.
that 'cause I have a 6th grade.
Oh, they're part of the special schedule. Okay.
Yes, and it's not something that he selected. I think it's something that, as a school district, you selected that they should take drama, photography, and journalism. I mean, I can see that in 7th, 8th grade, 6th grade, I'm looking more for a foundation. So I'm trying to understand the reasoning.
Well, again, I wasn't here when the programming was implemented, but my guess would be similar to what I described before, and thank you for clarifying that they are electives, that the idea at this point in middle school is really exposure to a number of different kinds of activities before students can really have an opportunity to forge an interest and develop, for example, some type of a focus that they might want to study as they begin to select their electives later on as they go up in the grades.
I mean, I hear you, but I guess that's from a parent perspective. I don't think a 6th grader, drama, they should be graded on drama, philosophy, and journalism. Journalism, maybe I can deal with, but drama? Because I'm assuming that now, and one of the issues I'll admit I've had from the beginning is the whole grading, AA, BB, PP, whatever. It doesn't really, as a parent, show you how your child is developing. Because right now, these kids are now going to find out an A, B, C. Now they're going to be hit with actually getting grades. So in the drama, I guess you can get a D or an F.
I'm being told it's pass-fail.
Okay, so that's pass or fail.
Yeah.
But I'm still trying, what's the purpose? Like, what if your child doesn't want to take drama? Are these mandatory classes?
I'm not, Karen, would you like to?
I'm just wondering if it might be helpful for us to kind of to pose this question to Mr. Fuller and?
Well, what I
the
was going to
assistant
actually
principal and then-
recommend was
yeah.
that you perhaps
Okay.
meet with Dr. Atkinson, who is our assistant superintendent in charge of curriculum, to explore those issues along with Mr. Fuller, the principal, because as you can tell, I'm not intimately familiar with the middle school offerings. Those are the people that really are vested in the curriculum and can really help better address it. I'm very familiar with middle school philosophy. I've worked in the middle school. I've been an administrator, not in this particular middle school, but in other middle schools as well. And I know the overarching philosophy is that adolescents need a variety of different types of experiences because they don't know at this age what they don't necessarily know. So there are two general goals. One is to increase socialization and opportunities for them to interact with their peers, and second is to provide them with a variety and multitude of experiences. You're correct that they're not necessarily going to like everything that they're exposed to, but that's how they begin to formulate what they like and what they don't like, because at this age, if they've never been exposed to photography or drama, which are some of the electives that you've mentioned, how will they ever know whether or not they feel they have an interest in that particular area?
Don't get me wrong. I mean, we can agree to disagree because I'm looking at 6th grade. I'm not talking about 7th
hear
and
you.
8th.
I understand.
And I know certain schools, 6th grade is still elementary. You know, in this school system, it's not. You know, in certain school systems, middle school starts in 7th grade. So I know there's a difference. I'm looking at just developing the foundation aspect of the children. And then also, I guess my other question is this is past me, when are you going to change your whole grading system for the elementary? Because I thought I got something last year, a notation that was being looked into, and you were going to change that.
The elementary report cards, and again, Dr. Atkinson can speak to that about the work that's been done on changing them to a standard-based report card.
Okay. All right.
That's actually been in progress.
I don't have kids in the younger grades anymore, so I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, so I take it from 6th grade up is now going to be the A, B, C, D, E, well,
Correct.
excuse me, and F.
Yes.
Okay. How are you going to bridge that, though? Because you know it's going to be some shell shock for parents and for children.
Yeah, and that's part of the work that the committee is working on, is how do you go from one type of report card that parents have been accustomed to, and parents actually have been a part of the standards-based report card committee and have been involved in examining those issues as well, because we do want to make them user-friendly as well as prepare them for whatever the next level of report card is going to be.
Well, I guess I'm not saying just the parent, the child. Because you're going to have children now who probably thought they were doing okay. I'm thinking I'm doing A, B, because whatever that BB, whatever numbers you use. Now I'm finding out I have a 70 or a 75. It's a C. What do you want to start implementing for the kids?
That's actually what the teacher's responsibility is. The teachers spend the first part of the school year really explaining to the students, this is how the grading works in my particular class, what you're going to be assessed on, and how those count. So how much does your class participation count, your homework, your quizzes, your tests, any other projects or anything. That's part of what each of the individual subject area teachers discusses with the students at this time during the beginning of the year.
Okay. And I thought there was something they discussed in 5th grade at the same time. But, I mean, I hear you, but I think that was discussed also in 5th grade. They say bringing your homework, it means this and this and that. I'm not sure the children understand that now they're going to be actually a percentage. Do you understand what I mean by that?
I do, but again, I think that's part of the explanation that the teachers provide for the students, is to make them aware of that.
Okay, so I guess the teachers have been trained or aware that there's going to be some issues when children start getting their grades because they've never had that. You know, they're going to be able to ensure that the children
absolutely.
understand
They're certainly
this.
available to ask questions if the students have any answer
No, I'm
questions.
talking about the teachers. They have been trained to realize that change that's going to occur. Because it's going to be a change. If you think of yourself, if you were a
The teachers in
child.
6th grade, quite frankly, have been trained extensively in terms of understanding that there's a very large transition in a number of areas when the students are coming in from another school that has done things very differently. So I would say that the middle school teachers in general are exceptionally adept at actually handling many types of student inquiries. Just as a minor example, they spend a lot of time allowing students to learn how to do a lock on their locker, because they understand that in the transition coming from our elementary school, children have never had a lock on their locker before. And that's, believe it or not, one of the things that causes the most anxiety for children moving into the middle school is, am I going to be marked late if I get to class because I couldn't open my lock? So the teachers are well trained and certainly understand the kinds of typical questions that the children have because of the differences.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I just wanted,
We're not finished with you. I'm sorry.
I wanted to let you know that, that there's a Academic Affairs Committee of the board, and that is the committee that talks about curriculum and the new development of the report card. So that meeting hasn't been set yet.
Okay.
I don't believe, oh, it has? Okay. Oh, it's on, okay. Okay. So when's the meeting? I'm sorry. Oh, right, October 5th, and that's usually held in the administration building, and there are members of the board there. Dr. Atkinson is there, Dr. Hacker is there. So if you have questions, that's always a place to come.
Is that during work hours?
It's in the evening.
Okay.
In the evening.
It's in the evening. Okay, thank you.
And ma'am, I'm sorry. I just wanted to, because a lot of us here have kids who have either gone through middle school and elementary school or are currently, I know Karen's daughters, my daughter, I think they're in the same grade as them. Oh my, I thought yours are done. So from my experience, the teachers, both in elementary school and especially in the middle school, because those are the transitional, probably the toughest years for kids, do a fabulous job of making sure that they don't fall through the cracks, that they succeed and perform at an appropriate level. So I can understand if you've never had kids go through the middle school and on, it might be a little scary, especially for a sixth grader.
Well, I mean, my issue is that, I'll be honest, it's the whole set of the entire school system of how things are done that is totally different to me.
Absolutely.
So, as I said, it's not just, when I think of sixth grade and my expectations, one of my expectations was not to see drama. I think there's other things that could be language arts, if you want to do something for IT. And then when you go to a back-to-school meeting and you have a teacher that tells you, it sounds as though this program hasn't really been vetted, and you only have 6 cameras for how many students, it seems as though maybe we need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what we're going to do in regards to this. I understand it's elective to make the child round or whatever, but you need to also be prepared. Because 6 cameras for 100 and some kids, it's not that many cameras.
I know. I think I'll tell you from my perspective. There are a lot of, there's a movement out there to focus kids on math, et cetera, get rid of music, get rid of language arts. And I think we certainly as a board, value the other, not necessarily the, I don't know how to distinguish them, the hard disciplines that everyone wants everyone to teach, but also the soft disciplines that actually make a person a better performer as an adult, as a young adult, et cetera. So I think to us it's important to make sure that there's music, there's art, there's drama, there's everything to allow a child to be exposed to things outside of just the math, the science, the things like that.
No, and I understand the other
studies out
things.
there.
I've never heard drama as being, drama to me has always been an after-school project. It's something if you want to do after school. All the other things, yes, music, arts, used to have cooking. I mean, it was so many different things. You had repairing cars and things like that. So, I mean, there was a lot of things, though, but I just never saw drama part of education. I never saw photography, unless that was an elective you selected. They remind me of more college classes, something that you would pick in college just to throw in there.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Believe me, I wish my kids would learn how to fix a car. I would love that.
No, I mean, I use it as an example, what you were saying.
But drama, at least for my children, it enabled them to be more comfortable with public speaking, with doing presentations, and as you get on in later middle school and high school, that is tremendously helpful, especially and once you're an adult. A lot of people don't know how to speak in public and
Well, a lot
don't
of
feel
people don't take
comfortable.
drama. I mean, you have to take a public speaking class sometimes, and that's also
Drama helps a
elective
lot.
in college.
But I'm sorry.
And
I've
Ms.
taken
Wiggins,
up too
I
much.
just want to mention something about the grading, because I did have a daughter go through the middle school, and that was a concern to me. My daughter was very, like, super worried about her grades, you know, even at that middle school age. And I was worried about how that was going to affect her, going from just like the pass-fail or satisfactory, unsatisfactory. So one of the suggestions that was given to me by a friend of mine who's an educator is to talk with your child's teacher about a satisfactory, like how does an A-B translate from a satisfactory? For you to have that discussion with your child and say, you know, just to have an idea about bridging that, that change for him. The other thing I would tell you is that I also have friends whose kids are in school districts that have the standard type of grading, and then they go to the hard grading, the letter grading in high school. That's horrible, in my opinion, to do to a child, because the work starts getting difficult in 7th and 8th grade here in the middle school. And if you wait until high school to then introduce a child to the concept of A through F, to me, that's harder. To me, it's better to start introducing them at the middle school when the workload and the difficulty and the intensity of the work starts ramping up. So I would encourage you to talk with your child's teacher about what they consider, what that grade range is that's within satisfactory, that's within, you know, developing or whatever. It's been a long time, sorry, mine's in college now. But I understand that it's young, it feels young to you to have your child do that, and I respect what your feeling is. I can just tell you that I personally feel that I'm glad that my daughter had that experience, because if she had to go to grades in 9th grade, knowing the anxiety that she had about grades and the pressure she put on herself, it would have been a disaster.
And I'll be honest, I have friends who are superintendents of school systems, teachers. This is the only school system I've ever heard that. I have friends who has school systems around here and in different states. So this is the only school system I knew of, the BBPP or whatever. So I don't think my son's going to have an issue with it. I probably had more of an issue just in general from 1st to 5th grade of getting these PPBBs, the thick report card that I'm sitting up here like, I don't know what he learned, if anything. That's how I felt, just reading it. I think it's, you know, I don't know anyone who started in 9th grade. I think children need to be aware of, you know, what's going on. They're a little bit more adept when I think of it than I was probably at their age. So, I mean, I grew up always having grades. We've never had an SSBB or whatever. So, but, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Future meeting dates: interim board meeting, Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017, 7 p.m., Freeze Memorial Lobby. School board meeting, Tuesday, October 17th, 2017, 7 p.m., Freeze Memorial Lobby. There will be an academic affairs board committee meeting on Thursday, October 5th at 5:30 p.m. in the administration building. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night. Motion to adjourn.